from Royal Communications Incorporated. Pleasant good morning and welcome to King's Newsroom. 45 minutes of high-grade balance, incredible news about Liberia and the rest of our one world. Today is Friday, September 26, 2025. I'm Cornelius Johnson presenting this weekend edition of the program Story Top in the Headlines. Campus-based political party at the University of Liberia Progressive Students Alliance PROSA challenges members of the Liberian legislature to intervene in the delays surrounding the resumption of classes at the university. The students expressed frustration over what they described as government's failure to value their education through timely renovation and the reopening of the institution. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency confiscated 480 pack of tramadol drugs at the Tenny checkpoint in Grand Cape Man County. As the owner of Calando Petroleum Company refused reports of boxes of tramadol allegedly discovered in one of his trucks, claiming of having no knowledge. The Liberia National Fire Service discloses that its investigators were denied entry into the 9th Street residence of former President George Weah upon their return following a fire outbreak early Wednesday morning, as Deputy Information Minister Daniel Sano terms the alleged refusal of the president or the former president as lack of leadership. And of the home front, French Navy seizes nearly 10 tons of cocaine from the coast of West Africa. And Mutharika wins Malawi elections. The 85-year-old president who lost power in 2020 got elected recently as he defeated then Cuban Lazarus Chikara. That's according to the Elections Commission. The news bulletin, Voices of the Newsmakers, are all packaged in this edition of the program. We take a very short break to be right back. Campus-based political party at the University of Liberia, PROSA that's Progressive Students Alliance, known as PROSA, is challenging members of the Liberian legislature to intervene in the delays surrounding the resumption of classes at the university. Speaking Thursday on the grounds of the Capitol building in Monrovia, the students expressed frustration over what they described as government's failure to value their education through timely renovation and reopening of the institution. The students lamented that the University of Liberia still lacks basic academic facilities, including standard laboratory for research. They also noted that latrines on the campus remains in deplorable conditions, posing serious health hazard. According to PROSA spokesperson, the current situation undermines the credibility of the nation's premier state-run university and therefore requires urgent government attention. The group is calling on national authorities, especially the legislature, to raise their voices and ensure the university resumes operations without further delay. Meanwhile, the students wonder if their demands are not met, their next protest action will resemble what they call a flashback of June 16, 1976 Soweto uprising in South Africa. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has confiscated 480 pack of tramadol drugs at the Tenny checkpoint in Grand Cape Man County. The 40 cartons of illicit substances were discovered hidden on board a petroleum tanker belonging to the Calando Petroleum Company. The vehicle has been impounded while the DA is investigating the circumstances surrounding the drugs. According to a release issued Thursday as part of its heightened purpose, the LDA has intensified rigorous security checks at all border points to curb the inflow of dangerous substances into Liberia. Meanwhile, the agency has extended an official invitation to Mr. George Calando to appear as its head office for a conversation regarding the matter. The LDA is also encouraging citizens of goodwill to continue sharing timely information with the agency, stressing that community cooperation remains critical as the fight against drug traffickers and distributors intensifies. At the same time, the owner of Calando Petroleum Company has refuted reports of boxes of tramadol allegedly discovered in one of his trucks, claiming of having no knowledge. Late Thursday afternoon, it was reported that about 40 cartons of tramadol were confiscated from one of Calando Petroleum trucks at the Tenny checkpoint in Grand Cape Man County. Speaking to reporters in Conga Town, George Calando said it was without his knowledge that the truck had gone to distribute products outside of Monrovia for petrol trade, and he later found out it was rented to an individual. Mr. Calando mentioned having no idea how drugs enter his truck, adding it was shocking after receiving a call from the Liberia National Police about the incident. The Liberia National Fire Service has disclosed that its investigators were denied entry into the 9th Street residence of former President George Weah upon their return following a fire outbreak early Wednesday morning. The blaze, which engulfed the former president's home, was brought under control with the combined efforts of firefighters and community residents. According to the statement released, the Liberia National Fire Service said its team had gone back to the scene to conduct an assessment and determine the cause of the fire, but was prevented from entering the premises. It further that on the morning of September 24, 2025, fire investigators went to the 9th Street residence of former President Weah to investigate and establish the cause of the fire, but were denied entry into the compound. The fire service did not disclose who denied its team access or provide further details on the incident. At the same time, the Deputy Minister for Public Affairs at the Ministry of Information has termed as lack of leadership on the part of former President George Weah refusal to allow fire investigators entry into his compound. The Lutheran Church in Liberia has backed its Bishop Victor Padmore after he was indicted by the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission of Financial Irregularity at the Lofa County University. The church said Bishop Padmore will no doubt submit to the judicial process to clear his name. The Lutheran Church reaffirms its dedication to accountability, transparency, and the rule of law, while calling for speedy adjudication to ensure all accused persons face due process. According to the Secretary General Victor Cato, the Lutheran Church of Liberia calls for the judicial process to run its course as the bishop and all accused persons can go through the legal system and those found culpable be held accountable. The Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission indictment comes from an investigation which uncovered alleged financial irregularity of approximately 410,000 United States dollars and 13.3 million Liberian dollars at the Lofa County University. On September 2 this year, the 10th Judicial Circuit Court in Lofa County indicted Dr. Peter P. Porter, president of LCU, former president Dr. Samuel Nyama, and several senior officials, including Bishop Palmo, against alleged misconduct. Non-academic activities at the William V. Stockman High School on 12th Street in Cinco were disrupted early Thursday after students and administrators discovered bloodstains on the walls and floors of the classrooms. The unexpected scene created panic among students, with some reportedly fainting after witnessing the blood. Authorities of the Monrovia Consolidated School System immediately ordered the suspension of classes, directing students to return on Monday. Samuel Nyanu, communications director at the MCSS, told reporters that initial accounts from campus security suggest the incident may have stemmed from a burglary attempt. He said alleged thieves were pursued by security officers, which may have resulted into the blood being left at the scene. He added that the MCSS has notified the Liberia National Police and an investigation is on the way to determine what transpired. The Public Procurement and Concession Commission has reportedly given contracts valued 12 million United States dollars to Liberian-owned companies since the introduction of the digital procurement platform for about 6 ministries and agencies. The executive director of the commission, Bojo Johnson, disclosed that about 50 ministries, commissions, bureaus, and authorities are expected to be placed on the digital procurement by the end of the year. Mr. Johnson made the disclosure of the program marking the observance of the 20th anniversary of the Public Procurement and Concession Commission in Monrovia on Thursday. The PPCC executive director assured the public that the public money will be used for the public goods because it will help curb corruption in procurement. The management of the Liberian Petroleum Refinery Corporation has unveiled plans aimed at constructing storage facilities in Nimba, Maryland, and Sano counties. The consultant in the offices of the managing director of the LPRC, Maxwell Grisby, disclosed that the company will shortly send an assessment team to Nimba, Maryland, and Sano counties so as to stabilize the prices of petroleum products throughout the country. Anthony Grisby made the disclosure when he defended the government decision to reduce storage fees at the Movement for Intellectual Change or Exchange in Clarendon on Thursday. According to Anthony Grisby, government hopes to raise millions of US dollars in paying for the Caterpillar machines and 3 million United States dollars towards social matters. The Suleiman Reynolds Citizens Movement for We Are 2029 says President Joseph Boakar's government has declared war not on corruption or drugs, but on the very voices of opposition that sustains Liberia's democracy. The group recalled that in February 2024, former President George Weah was denied his constitutional right to return home when his plane was refused landing rights at the Rabat International Airport. Again, on September 22 this year, citizens will gather at the airport to welcome him, where tear gas brutalized and arrested by state security. According to the movement, matters worsened on September 24 when former President George Weah's life was nearly lost in a treacherous arson attack at his residence, an act they described as state-sponsored terrorism. They argue that such incidents reveal a government that is fearful of its people and bent on silencing dissent. Further allegations were raised against Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Brian McGill, accused of raping a 14-year-old girl in his office. The movement condemned Police Inspector General Gregory Coleman for allegedly shielding the accused while remaining silent on the arson attack against the former president. In response, the Suleiman Reynolds Citizen Movement demanded the release of all arrested citizens and international probe into the assassination attempt on former President Weah, the prosecution of both IG Gregory Coleman and Deputy Minister McGill, and an end to state intimidation of opposition voices. And the Global Methodist Church has become the distribution of medical equipment value over 250,000 United States dollars to several clinics in Bong and Nimba counties. The superintendent of the Global Methodist Church, Reverend Dr. Jerry Kula, disclosed that the 40-feet continuum, which was shipped to Liberia at a cost of 30,000 United States dollars, contains beds, delivery beds, wheelchairs, walking stick, beddings, operation machines, among many others. Speaking in an interview with reporters in Monrovia Thursday, Reverend Dr. Kula explained that the distribution of the medical equipment falls in one of the visions of the church. According to Reverend Dr. Kula, the medical equipment will be distributed to both government-owned, private, and faith-based clinics and those operated by the Global Methodist Church. The news bulletin will take a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you voices of the newsmakers. Many thanks for being there and welcome back to King's Newsroom. Let's now bring you voices of the newsmakers. Campus-based political party at the University of Liberia, the Progressive Students Alliance, known as PROSI, is challenging members of the Liberian legislature to intervene in the delays surrounding the resumption of classes at the university. Speaking on the grounds of the Capitol building in Monrovia, the students expressed frustration over what they describe as government's failure to value their education through timely renovation and the reopening of the institution. The students lamented that the University of Liberia still lacks basic facilities, including standard laboratory for research. They also noted that latrines on the campus remain in a deplorable condition, posing serious health risks. According to PROSI spokesperson, the current situation undermines the credibility of the nation's premier state-run university and therefore requires urgent government's attention.
In the midst of police presence, we want to say, the next assembly year there will be a reintroduction on June 16, 1976. By that time, there will be an overwhelming support of university students who are tired of sitting home. So they always try to use the police as an instrument to instill fear and terror in the republic and instill fear and to go after conscious voices. We salute decent men in uniform. We say decent men and re-emphasize decent men in uniform. There are some police officers that allow themselves to be used at the hands of state actors to go against conscious voices. On several occasions, our institutions, our militants have been brutalized and dragged to prison. Absolutely, we have never one day in our lifetimes ever felt disappointed of what we do. But never one day in our lifetime felt ashamed of what we do. Because we know what we do, and it's not a reward of man to give us. This story has our reward in the end. And so we say there's a short notice to the lawmaker. To the police officer, we say salute to decent men in uniform. To those who are very unprofessional among the police, we say to you, unprofessionalism is not the way. You must give conscious bosses the opportunity to speak out. We have a responsibility. We have a fundamental responsibility. Some of you police officers, you are students of the University of Liberia. Go and see the shameful condition. Students of the university are learning in classroom where
spokesperson of the students Progressive Students Alliance, PROSI, they're challenging members of the Liberian legislature to intervene in the delays surrounding the resumption of classes at the university. The Liberian National Fire Service has disclosed that its investigators were denied entry into the 9th Street residence of former President George Weah upon their return following a fire outbreak early Wednesday morning. The blaze, which engulfed the former president's home, was brought under control with the combined efforts of firefighters and community residents. According to a statement released, the Liberian National Fire Service said its team had gone back to the scene to conduct an assessment and determine the cause of the fire, but was prevented from entering the premises. At the same time, a deputy minister for public affairs at the Ministry of Information has termed as lack of leadership on the part of former President Weah's refusal to allow fire investigators entry into his compound. Here now is Deputy Information Minister Daniel Sano.
In the midst of police presence, we want to say the next assembly year there will be a reintroduction on June 16, 1976.
To the effect that a fire outbreak was an attempt on the life of the former president and that it was a deliberate calculation by people believed to be associated with the government. As a government, we consider those allegations sweeping, will not respond to it. What we want to hold the former president to is the fact that the government entity that is responsible for fighting fire responded to his call, and that after the fire was extinguished, they were denied access to the scene to continue the investigation. Now, if you have your house and fire on your roof, you call the fire service, they went there, help you to extinguish a fire, and the next day they are stopped from entering because, according to you, you got reason to believe that a fire was set up by people who in the government or people from the Unity Party. It's up to you. But we just say that it's unfortunate that the former president is not leading by example. Luther Tapper, the current chairman of the Unity Party, his home was gutted by fire during the election, the campaign. He didn't stop the firefighters. What have they got to do with the politics of the country? These are people that are walking into the fire to save lives every day, and you try to politicize their work. That is not leadership on the part of the former president. It's not leadership. And we can only hope that the former president comes to the realization that he's accountable to the people who support him. When you try to play politics with everything, he's also accountable to the Liberian public, even those who don't support him. So his action now will make others to believe that this thing, all makeup, it was a sham to create an impression that you're being haunted. Only one thing can establish the cause of the fire: the investigation. The head of the NSA House, General Prince Johnson, is caught by fire in Pinsbury. So should we say that, oh, the opposition will go show soon, petrol bomb to your house? You can't do that. It's just unimaginable. So many thanks to the fire service team. They've done their part. And every question that now lingers on the mind of the public will be directed to the former president, because it is his house, his private residence. Maybe there are reasons why he doesn't want the investigation to continue. Because if it continues, it will either determine that the fire was started by somebody deliberate action. But I do believe to prevent future fire outbreak.
Deputy Information Minister Daniel Sano. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has confiscated 480 packs of tramadol drugs at the Tenny checkpoint in Grand Cape County. The 40 cartons of illicit substance were discovered hidden on board a petroleum tanker belonging to Kalando Petroleum Company. The vehicle has been impounded while the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency is investigating the circumstances surrounding the drugs. As part of its heightened response, the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has intensified rigorous security checks at all border points to curb the inflow of dangerous substances into Liberia. Meanwhile, the agency has extended an official invitation to Mr. George Kalando to appear at its head office for a conversation regarding the matter. At the same time, owner of Kalando Petroleum Company has refuted reports of boxes of tramadol allegedly discovered in one of his trucks, claiming of having no knowledge. Late Thursday afternoon, it was reported that about 40 cartons of tramadol were confiscated from one of Kalando Petroleum trucks at the Tenny checkpoint in Grand Cape County. Speaking to reporters in Congo Town Thursday, George Kalando said it was without his knowledge that the truck had gone to distribute products outside of Monrovia for petrol trade, and he later found out it was rented to an individual. Mr. Kalando mentioned having no idea how drugs enter his truck, adding it was shocking after receiving a call from the Liberia National Police about the incident. Here now is George Kalando.
These products were not even purchased from our company. They were purchased from petrol trade. I had a product from petrol trade, 500 gallons and 3,000 gallons, total of 4,000 gallons, got into our truck that is supposed to be packed. Well, according to Cassie is a distributor. This man was looking for trucks. That's how they gave our truck. There's another agent for petrol trade. He talked with this Cassie guy. Cassie is a distributor. They were looking for a car that how they put this 4,000 gallons with the understanding that they are going to go bring the money from wherever they were carrying the product. I did not know. All I know, my trucks should be packed until this morning when all the things. After police got to know that, I got to know that police, you understand, have arrested my truck. I got to know that the man who took the product told the driver that he had money to come to bring the money back to Monrovia, according to Cassie. When I got to know this morning, I called him directly and told him to go to the police station to report himself. Cassie, the driver, the man who bought the product, they are all with the police. To the best of my knowledge, the guy said the driver, neither Cassie, does not know nothing about what transpired. According to Cassie, the driver, when he arrived in Teni, the Grand Cape man, the owner of the product told the guy that he had money to bring to Monrovia. That how the guy allowed him to put those boxes. That's to my door. Later we gotta know now. I had to put it into the truck to count. We don't know nothing about it. My trucks are being packed at Johnsonville. How it went down there, it's only a mystery.
So you don't know anything about this?
Nothing. Nothing. In fact, it's the police that informed me this morning that my truck was in Teni, to be exact. That there were drugs on the truck. How is that possible?
George Calando, owner of Calando Petroleum Company, they're claiming of having no knowledge about his truck entry into Grand Cape Mine County. Normal academic activities at the William V. Stockman High School on 12th Street in Sinker were disrupted early Thursday after students and administrators discovered bloodstains on the walls and floors of the classrooms. The unexpected scene created panic among students, with some reportedly fainting after witnessing the blood. Authorities of the Monrovia Consolidated School Systems immediately ordered the suspension of classes, directing students to return on Monday. Samuel Quenu, communications director of the MCSS, told reporters that initial accounts from campus security suggest that incident may have stemmed from a burglary attempt.
The Monrovia Consolidated School System, MCSS, has received with immense concern news of an alleged burglary incident at the William V. Stockman High School. Though at the moment, information of what exactly transpired remains sketchy, the MCSS shall keep those affected by the abrupt closure of the school in its thoughts. The administration of the Monrovia Consolidated School System, MCSS, is engaged with the Labrador National Police to ascertain the facts. We admonish the public against the spreading of misinformation about the unfortunate incident, since doing so could derail the investigation. The MCSS acting superintendent, Dr. Ogari E. Stevens, along with a few members of our senior management team, were at the site this morning to ascertain the facts, offer support, and monitor the situation. In fact, to allow our security, along with the Labrador National Police, to carry out their investigation. The MCSS acting superintendent is concerned. To ensure the safety of our students, William V. Stockman High School remains closed till Sunday, September 28, 2025, pending the outcome of the investigation. Classes shall resume on Monday, September 29, 2025.
All right, like I said, we received news of a burglary incident on the last shift. We broke into the compound of the William V. Stockman High School. This morning, as we all know, the William V. Stockman High School is now fully fenced, and information we received is that an alleged thief, a reported thief, broke into the school premises, and while he was being chased by the security at the school, endeavored to jump over the fence. That has a barbed wire. And while doing that, he was allegedly caught by the barbed wire that led to the profuse bleeding. The child went after him, but they could not get him. He started running from class to class.
He's the communication director of the Monrovia Consolidated School System, Samuel Nyenu. They're speaking. Indeed, if you just join us, a reminder you are in tune to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes of reliable and factual news about Liberia and the rest of our one world. Today is Friday, September 26, 2025. My name is Cornelius Johnson. Story top in the headlines. Campus-based political party at the University of Liberia, Progressive Students Alliance, PROSI, is challenging members of the Liberian legislature to intervene in the delays surrounding the resumption of classes at the university. The students expressed frustration over what they describe as government failure to value their education through timely renovation and reopening of the institution. Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency confiscate 480 pack of tramadol at the Tenney checkpoint in Grand Cape Man County as the owner of Calando Petroleum Company refused reports of boxes of tramadol allegedly discovered in one of his trucks, claiming of having no knowledge. The Liberia National Fire Service discloses that its investigators were denied entry into the 9th Street residence of former President George Weah upon their return following a fire outbreak early Wednesday morning as Deputy Information Minister Daniel Sano terms lack of leadership on the part of former President George Weah refusal to allow fire investigators entry into his compound. And of the home front, French Navy seizes nearly 10 tons of cocaine off the coast of West Africa. And Malawi ex-president wins election in a comeback at age 85. Peter Mutharika defeated then Cuban President Lazarus Chikara. That's according to the election commission. We take a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you more developments on the program. Many thanks for being there and welcome back. The Public Procurement and Concession Commission has reportedly given contract value 12 million United States dollars to Liberian-owned companies since the introduction for the digital procurement platform for about 6 months at ministries and agencies. The executive director of the commission, Bojo Johnson, disclosed that about 50 ministries, commissions, and bureaus and authorities are expected to be placed on the digital procurement by the end of the year. Mr. Johnson made the disclosure at program marking the observance of the 20th anniversary of the Public Procurement and Concession Commission in Monrovia on Thursday.
Our history release came in 2025 February when we launched the e-government procurement system, a digital platform that has made Liberia's procurement for people with technology. And I want to report that since the launch of the system in May 2025, the system has been able to award $12 million contract through the system to Liberian-owned businesses. The system has shown transparency, accountability, and fair value for money. The current system already have 6 marks. 6 government entities, and now have $12 million with 6 entities. That's the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, and the Board Revenue Authority of the PPCC. So we have time to be able to conduct the award $12 million in contracts. Now this year we hope to bring 50 more marks on the platform to show transparency and accountability. And I want to say that the Office of Excellency, our President, Bishop William, we have been very supportive of those initiatives in the journey. The president has been future launching of the e-procurement. And we said when the platform goes, so make sure that we bring the SOEs of this platform to show transparency in the state of enterprise. So we're working on some of the first two, we are bringing in the state of enterprise. As we celebrate 20 years, our mission is not complete. We have our lives the task of fully living out the e-procurement system nationwide. Using data analysis to drive oversight, professional asset procurement through certification programs, building capacity, including the activity of co-value the best system. Above all, we are going to ensure that every public ballot delivers maximum value for the Liberian people.
The management of the Liberia Petroleum Refinery Corporation has unveiled plans aimed at constructing storage facilities in Nimbra, Maryland, and Sano counties. The consultant in the offices of the managing director of the LPRC, Maxwell Grisbury, disclosed that the company will shortly send an assessment team to Nimbra, Maryland, and Sano counties so as to establish or stabilize the prices of petroleum products throughout the country. Anthony Grispe made the disclosure when he defended the government decision to reduce storage fees at the Movement for Intellectual Exchange in Claratown on Thursday.
Construction of 10 and now $1, $2 thing. The 12,000 metro ton we're doing now FPRC is costing FPRC $9 million. So this sector needed people to invest. And for people to invest, they needed to have the security that there will be returns on their investment. So to motivate people to invest, sometimes you got to create attractive packages. The essence of this allowance for storage was for importers who could have paid 35 cents to LPRC but proceeded to build a tank. We wanted to give them relief so that they recover from their investment. So instead of paying 35 cents for storage, they were only charged 3 cents royalty because we were now storing their product. They were using the tank to store their own product and to increase their profit margin beyond the importers. Or every gallon will get importer margin or profit margin, we get retailer profit margin, and we get wholesale. There's a whole list of profit margin for the business people. In excess of the importer profit margin, LPRC created an allowance where they can store other private people product, get 35 cents, and only get LPRC 3 cents. So after benefiting of this for more than 10 years, now that we have moved to domestic resource mobilization, don't you think it's fair? Don't you think it's beneficial for this country for us to close some of these corruption loopholes?
He's Maswell Grispe, consultant in the offices of the managing director at the LPRC. The Global Methodist Church has begun the distribution of medical equipment value over $250,000 to several clinics in Bong and Nimba counties. The superintendent of Global Methodist Church, Reverend Dr. Jerry Kula, disclosed that about 40 feet continuum, which was shipped to Liberia at the cost of $30,000, contains beds, delivery beds, wheelchairs, walking sticks, beddings, operation machines, among others. Speaking in an interview with reporters in Monrovia Thursday, Reverend Dr. Kula explained that the distribution of the medical equipment falls in one of the visions of the church. Here now is Jerry Kula.
They are going to the central region. We have a clinic in Bowie, there where it's going. We have, there's a clinic in Gamu, there's a clinic in Belamu. So those areas, when we have like supplies, like some time ago I got some bicycles. I share with you have the coordinators who go around to inform the people about different diseases and check them out. And then when they give them medicine for syphilis, like some of them are right now into the different counties right now, trying to check on them to see how they responded to the drugs. Those kind of people, you want to give them motorbikes or you want to give them bicycles and kind of thing like that. Then the equipment goes and then they share with the different clinic. Some of them are government run and some of them are privately run, like the one in Bowie, that community clinic that we are running. And so it's one of the Global Methodist clinics that we are running. So the equipment supplies are going there. $250,000 United States dollars, but you have an organization in the States called Project Q. So they are willing for you to supply you a 40-foot container of equipment that you can serve different hospitals and clinics with if you can only raise $30,000 to ship the equipment here. So the worth of the goods in the equipment in a 40-foot container is about $250,000 worth of equipment supply. You're talking about beds, you're talking about delivery beds, you're talking about mattresses, you're talking about different equipment like that you use, crutches and wheelchairs, tables, and other things you use in a hospital and in a clinic like that.
He's the superintendent of the Global Methodist Church, Reverend Dr. Jerry Kula. They're disclosing the distribution of medical equipment value over $250,000 United States dollars to several clinics in Bong and Nimba counties. Today's development now, the Suleiman Randall Citizens Movement for WIA 2029 says President Joseph Boakar's government has declared war not on corruption or drugs, but on the very voices of opposition that sustains Liberia's democracy. The group recalled that in February 2024, former President George Weah was denied his constitutional right to return home when his plane was refused landing rights at the Rabat International Airport. According to them, again on September 22 this year, citizens will gather at the airport to welcome him, were tear gas, brutalized, and arrested by state security. The movement said the matters worsened on September 22 in a treasurer's arson attack at his residence and at this describes as state-sponsored terrorism.
To welcome that leader were brutalized, tear gas, and arrested by state security forces acting as private militias of the ruling clique. If that was not enough, on September 24, 2025, former president was nearly cut short by cowardly and treacherous arson attack in his very bedroom. An act that bears the fingerprint of the state-sponsored terrorism. Again, to our insult to injury, on August 30, 2025, the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sport, Brian McGill, was accused of raping a 14-year-old girl, the daughter of the Deputy Security Chief at the ministry, in his office. Rape is non-bailable. It's a non-bailable crime. Yet, the Police Inspector General, Colonel Gregory Cuomo, has cowardly shielded the accused while pretending to be blind and deaf to justice. Even more disgraceful, the Suleiman Randall Citizen Movement for WIA 2029 demands the following. 1. The immediate release of all people, citizens, and partisans arrested during the September 27 homecoming of former President WIA at the Rabat International Airport. 2. An independent international investigation into the September 24 assassination attempt on the life of President WIA in his bedroom, including suspected involvement of state security operatives. 3. The immediate dismissal and prosecution of Police Inspector General Gregor Cuomo for intentional neglect and complicity in inquiring of crimes. 4. The immediate arrest and prosecution of Brian McGill, the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sport, accused of raping a 14-year-old child.
Of the home front, French Navy has seized nearly 10 tons of cocaine worth 610 million United States dollars off the West African coast. That's according to French authority. 2 French Navy vessels operating as part of the operation intercepted the enormous cocaine haul from an engulfed fishing vessel acting on the tip-off from maritime intelligence, anti-drug authorities, and the British National Crime Agency. The Navy mission has been deployed by the French in the Gulf of Guinea since 1990 to ensure security in an area where piracy is fairly common. The French Navy said about 54 tons of drugs has been intercepted in the area since the beginning of the year. And today's development now, Malawi's former president Peter Mutharika has been declared winner of last week's election in a huge comeback for the 85-year-old. Officials' results show that he won 57% of the vote compared to 33% of former President Lazarus Chikara. 70 Chikara, a pastor before entering politics, considered defeat ahead of the final results being declared, phoning Mutharika to congratulate him on his historic win. Mutharika, a former professor of law, served as president of Malawi from 2024 to 2020 when he lost to Chikara by a wide margin. So in this news here, once again, is our headlines. Campus-based political party at the University of Liberia Progressive Students Alliance, known as PROSI, challenges members of the Liberian legislature to intervene in the delays surrounding the resumption of classes at the university. Students express frustration over what they describe as government failure to value their education through timely renovation and reopening of the institution. Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency confiscated 480 pack of tramadol at the Tani checkpoint in Grand Cape County. The 40 cartons of illicit substance were discovered hidden on board a petroleum tanker belonging to the Calando Petroleum Company. As the owner of Calando Petroleum Company, George Calando, refused reports of boxes of tramadol allegedly discovered in one of his trucks, claiming having no knowledge. And the Liberia National Fire Service has discloses that its investigators were denied entry into the 9th Street residence of former President George Weah upon their return following a fire outbreak early Wednesday morning, as Deputy Information Minister Daniel Sano terms as lack of leadership on the part of former President Weah to allow fire investigators entry into his compound. Of the home front, French Navy seizes nearly 10 tons of cocaine from the coast of West Africa. And Malawi's ex-president wins election in a comeback at the age of 85. Peter Mutharika defeated the incumbent president Lazarus Chakwera. The election commission has announced. Many thanks to all of our contributors, editors, and reporters who help in making this edition of King's Newsroom or sources. For more news and information on the station, do join us at 1 p.m. this afternoon for another edition of the program. On behalf of the entire team, my name is Cornelius Johnson. Many thanks for listening and watching. Good morning.